Well, this is the second day of April, and to many of you, Happy New Year. Because this was originally, or at least at one time, considered, April 1st was considered the new year. And that's the way the calendar was devised at one time. To begin on April 1st, as springtime came, then the seasons unfolded in that way. Spring, summer, fall, winter, and then spring again became the new year. Someplace along the line, somebody decided, no, let's don't do it that way anymore. Let's begin it at the solstice. I guess it probably once things started occurring that people understood the way that the planets and the heavenly bodies rotated around one another. They decided to use that as a way of understanding things. And so all those who followed the old calendar were considered fools. And people played tricks on these people who were still using the old calendar. And that's where the idea of April Fools came from. So many of us are still April Fools, but I started thinking about the word fool. And it's one of my favorite words in this way. I love words that are both a verb and a noun. And it is. To fool someone means to play a trick on them, or a prank of some kind, or do something that allows them to believe one thing when actually another thing is occurring. Yesterday, after quite some time, you know, my birthday was March 24th. Well, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, Natasha's brother and his wife, were going to come to York to our home and have dinner with us on my birthday, which was on a Friday, and they were going to come that evening. But they got the flu, and they couldn't come. So they called us and said, I'm sorry, we're sick, we can't make it. So we said, well, we'll put it off for a week. And they were pretty sick all week, and they kept contacting us, and they were going to try to put it off till Sunday afternoon, couldn't make it, and finally, yesterday was decided they would come about 6 o'clock. Well, about 5 o'clock, her brother called her, and I could hear her upstairs, and she had, they were speaking in Russian, but I could tell from the sound of her voice that something wasn't very good going on there. So I went upstairs and I asked her what happened, and she said she had just hung up. She usually says, bye-bye. And she said, boy, like this. So I knew something is not good. I said, what happened? She said, they're still sick. They can't come. And I thought, all this food, all this preparation, we were ready to do this. Everything was happening. And she thought the same thing. What am I going to do with all this food? Then about 5 minutes later, he called back. April Fools. We're on our way. So that was a good one. He pulled a good trick on us. Fool. So we got to be fooled, and we got to be the fool in that sense. You know, I think that this happens to us every day of our lives. I think we are fooled, and we become the fool every day. No fooling. I really believe that. I think it's true. By the way, that's the name of my talk. No fooling. How can we go through our lives and not be fooled or pranked or tricked by life itself? How can we do that? You know, oftentimes what happens in the situation is a situation is set up that you just absolutely believe. You're told things by someone or some power or something tells you something. It might be the media, it might be the government, it might be your family, it might be the weather, it could be any number of things. That a certain thing is occurring or going to occur. And you wait, and then it doesn't happen that way. That often happens with the weather. It happened with the media when they said there was absolutely no way for the president, the person who is now president, to win the election, and he did, somehow. We were all fooled, all except those few who just were sure that was the way it was going to turn out. But it happens often. It happens to every one of us. It happens even to our own thinking. Our thinking arranges itself in such a way to fool us. Give you a perfect example. I'm thinking and I'm feeling good and everything is going well with me, and then I go into another room and I happen to see my reflection in the mirror. And I immediately think, Dad, how did you get, just for a second, I'm fooled by the mirror into thinking I saw my long gone past Dad. But just for a second, that's what I think I'm seeing. I don't feel on the inside like I look on the outside anymore. Anybody have that experience happen to them? Of course we all do. We change. But the change doesn't occur inside us. You know, I just turned 70, my last birthday. I don't feel 70. Thank you. But I don't feel 70. You know, life began at 40 and then just stayed there. That's what it feels like to me. I feel healthy. And especially since I had that correction in my spinal cord, the spinal stenosis taken away, I feel great. I feel absolutely wonderful again. Everything is just, I feel young. I feel my youth once again. But I'm fooling myself in one sense, and in another way, my body is fooling myself when I look and see the reflection of it. Two little jokes, two little pranks going on there within myself. I feel a certain way on the inside, and a certain age and a certain dynamic is going on within me on the inside, and the outside is changing. Then I also realize that the outside is changing, and to hang on to those young, youthful beliefs is not really meshing up with what's really going on. So I can stay in a situation where I think I have plenty of time. No sense doing that today, I've got plenty of time. No sense taking care of that now, I've got plenty of time. Tick, 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 tick. When in the meantime, the reality of the fact that human beings in their fleshly sense are born, live, and die. But I don't want to think about that. You? I don't want to think about that. And so I'm fooling myself. I'm living a life of self-deception unless I can sync the two of them together. Once I do that, I think that's the beginning of wisdom for any one of us. You know, Jesus makes a statement on the Sermon on the Mount. He makes many statements, but this one often has occurred to me as exactly what did he mean by this? He says, call no person raka. And in his language, that means fool. Call no person fool. Why would he make such a statement? He didn't say, you know, don't recognize that there's foolish behavior in anyone. He says, don't call them that. Don't give them that label. Don't put that upon them in some way. Why? Because he knows, and will always know, that thought is a boomerang. If you are calling somebody something, you are accepting it and drawing it to yourself. So anytime that we label another human being something, now this is the tricky part, that could be good or bad. Good or bad. When we label them better than us, when we label them prettier than us, smarter than us, or whether we label them sillier than us, lazier than us, whatever it might be, we're really doing nothing more than taking on that role within ourselves to a great degree. Now, we continue to fool ourselves by not realizing that this is what's going on with us. This acceptance of these roles. So when we see somebody that we think is prettier than us or smarter than us, we think that everything is occurring in the outer, and that we're separate from them, and we're not as good as they are. If we see somebody that is sillier than us, or somebody who is not as smart as we are, or whatever, then we immediately say to ourselves, we have created separation. That's where we are absolutely living a life which is not true. We're fooling ourselves. It's a total deception for us to see anybody else as different less than, or better than ourselves. Once again, I'm speaking fully about embracing oneness. That's the greatest truth that we could ever experience. Embracing oneness in all its many forms. It shows up for us today as buds coming out on trees and the songs of birds. And we hear this and we immediately are transformed for a second. We hear the poetry of the world. We see the artistry of the world unfolding before us. But if we simply see it as, yeah, it's just another day, I'm busy, I've got to go to work, let's see, what time is it? And if we're living our life like that, we miss the whole thing. I used to live in Hawaii. I lived there for 5 years. I would drive by the coastline every day, and I'd see porpoises jumping and spinning in the water, and I would see waves coming in. When a wave comes in, if you look inside the wave, fish are just in there swimming around, and it's quite a thing. It's quite beautiful. I lived there, and I said to myself, if I ever get to the point where I don't love and appreciate all this beauty around me, I need to go someplace else. Now, I did leave there, but it wasn't for that reason. The reason I did it is because life shifted. It was time to move on. My children were starting to have children of their own, and I wanted to be granddad. I didn't want to miss that, so I came back to the mainland. That's the main reason I did. But that little golden window of 5 years of time made me understand the beauty that is all around us and that we are a part of it all. To look out at the world and not see the beauty of it, to see only the ugliness of it, is to create separation for ourselves. Because the truth of it is that we are all one together in this beauty. We're all one together in this grand harmony of life, which is constantly moving. One more little story about Hawaii. While I was there, the volcano, which had been going off since 1981, I think, was continuing to pour lava, and still is to this very day and night, even as we speak. It's just pouring out and making new earth as it goes. And it would pour over, and this red-hot lava would cool off and turn absolutely black, just as black as you can imagine. And it would be hard, and it would be crystal, and there was nothing that could possibly live in that. And about a month later, you'd see a little sprig of green popping up from a little crevice in it someplace. Life goes on. It's just amazing. In all its myriad forms, it continues to go on. It is unconquerable. It's one. It is one. And that's what we need to be embracing. Not the view of ourselves in the mirror and seeing this and being fooled by the fact that we're getting older and don't feel older. Not the feeling inside us where we feel like I'm never aging and never will and everything is just fine. Learning to combine those, putting those together, and to face life as it truly is allows us to have oneness in our lives. Denial never helped anybody except the Egyptians, right? Denial never helped anyone do anything. It's just a river in Egypt, that's all it is. Anything else is just a way of deceiving ourselves, and deception is a way, another word for deception is to fool. So I invite all of you to take another look out there in the world around you. Look for those things that connect you to it, not separate you from it. And within, look for all the things that connect you with each and every other person. There's another river, a river called love, and we're all in it. We're all in it together. If we realize this, then we feel this connection within us, and we take on the flow of life. We take it on in a way that we hadn't been seeing it before, even though it was going on all around us all the time. Look within. Look without. Look out there. See yourself in everything and everyone. See yourself as beauty. See yourself as love. See yourself as life. When you do this, then there's nothing that can fool you about any of it. God bless.